My name's Daniel Ramos. I'm an alum of Reaching Out From Within. I spoke at this symposium in 2019. I was still incarcerated at the time. And since then, I've been released. I've been released over 2 years now. And I think that's important. Thank you. And I was able to take advantage of a lot of important programs while I was in there, and programs that I've continued to be involved with when I've gotten out. Because one of the things that they mentioned in that last panel was, while you're in prison, you have access to a lot. And when you get out of prison, you might have access, but that access is a lot harder to come by. It's a lot more difficult. You have a lot more obstacles and challenges and responsibilities. And so that can be, one of the things that makes you or breaks you in reality. So housing is one of those things. If you have stable housing, if you have a place where you feel safe, where you feel like you're welcomed, where you feel like the people that you live with understand you and care about you and want you to succeed, then that's one thing off the table that you have to worry about, one less thing. So then you can focus on the next steps of that, whether that's acquiring transportation, or whether that's acquiring a job, or whether that's dealing with your mental health issues or your drug addiction issues, and whatever it is that you have going on, paying up your child support, trying to reestablish those connections with your family. So many things that people getting out of prison are dealing with. So if we can take the housing aspect of that off the table, then it frees up so much. Because if you don't have anywhere to live, how are you supposed to attack all these other things that you're trying to accomplish? And so I'd like to introduce some of our panel. I'll introduce the whole panel, and then I'll call out them one by one and allow them to say a little bit about themselves. We have Amy Dean Kampmeyer. She's the Mental Health and Housing Program Manager with the Kansas Department of Corrections. We have Michelle Tippie, and she's the superintendent of a brand new program and facility, the Transition Center of KC, and it's in Missouri. So she works with the Missouri Department of Corrections, and she's going to tell you about this cool stuff that they got going on with that program. We got Lori Trout. She's the founder and director of GROW Transitional Housing. It serves a lot of the women, all women. It serves women that are coming out of prisons. We got my buddy Matt Thomas over here, also my pastor from time to time. So he's the director of Firm Foundations Ministries. And so we're going to start with Amy, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, the work that you do in this area.
Sure. Yeah, you can hear me. I can hear myself. Thank you, Danny, for the introduction. Again, my name is Amy Dean, and I work for the Kansas Department of Corrections. And I am going to just talk a little bit about a few things that we have going on in Kansas to address the barrier of housing. We have specialized staff in some of our major metro areas that their focus is housing in their areas and in some of their surrounding areas. They do all the things housing. They look for private landlords willing to rent to folks that are returning. They do some education on what that means when a person is returning and how housing is a basic primary need for someone to be successful. We have what we call master leases, which is part of our transitional housing program. And this is an agreement that we, the Department of Corrections, have entered into with private landlords that allows us to place individuals into their apartments or their homes, typically up to about 90 days. And this program, this transitional housing program, is intended to focus on the population of people that already have jobs or maybe have a job lined up, have employable job skills that just need that that transition period of time to save up money, save up their deposit, work with our housing specialist or their parole officer to find their next safest location. It's a free program that, again, allows them to save that money, save their resource, figure out what's available for them in their community. We have what we call a supported housing program. It's an intensive case management service. The population that program focuses on is severe and persistently mentally ill. That also has a history of substance abuse and obviously a history of homelessness. It does address the housing piece, as it says in its title. Again, we work with private landlords mostly, and a litany of community partners to make sure they are successful. That looks like mental health, substance abuse, education, primary care physicians, public welfare agencies, which actually leads me to a third partnership that we have worked really hard at over the last several years, the Topeka Housing Authority. Unfortunately, that is specifically just in the Topeka area at this point, but they have worked really well with us to screen, enter, and put on the waiting list prior to release anybody that is eligible for public housing. As most people know in this room, there are only two absolute no-goes for public housing, and that is lifetime registered sex offenders and those that have been convicted of manufacturing methamphetamines while on public housing property. Other than that, they have really worked with us really, really well. And so the people spend time while incarcerated on the waiting list, so they release straight from incarceration to housing, and affordable housing at that. So those are our 4 with our specialized housing staff programs in Kansas.
Thank you, Amy. We appreciate that. Now we'll move on to Michelle. Michelle, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, the program you guys got going on in Missouri.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Tippie, and I'm with the Missouri Department of Corrections. And we are getting ready to open the Transition Center of Kansas City. And this is not going to be a typical reentry center, transition center. We are working with Greg Winship and the Center for Conflict Resolution to bring that restorative reentry center concept that Sue Ellen spoke of earlier to a transition center. So we don't want, this will be a 150-bed facility for men only. In the Kansas City metro area, so that would be Clay, Platte, and Jackson counties. We will be accepting referrals both from prison releases to transition, of course, back to their communities, but we will also be accepting referrals for people that are on supervision, probation, and parole in the community that maybe are in violation status, and they don't even need to be in violation status. They might just need the resources and the support that we have at the transition center. So there doesn't have to be a violation to have the person come to the program. We will have a 4-phase program, in-house opportunities. We have an education center set up, so our community partners will be coming to the transition center to provide our residents with really whatever services that they need, whether it's employment skills, literacy, any type of computer skills, whatever it is that they need, we will be providing at the transition center. They will also be able to secure employment. We will be transporting them to whatever appointments that they have or to an employer, so that truly when they complete the program, the only thing that will change with that resident is their residence. They will have a support system, they will have mentors set up in the community, so that, as we mentioned earlier, when they complete that program, they are truly just changing their residence and transitioning to their own home in the community.
Thank you, Michelle. It's a super program. You know, when she was telling me about it, I thought, man, that's an amazing idea to try to take a lot of these resources that we do have access to on the inside and put them under one roof and try to treat some of these people. Because a lot of men and women are in different situations. Some, you know, they have jobs, they have money saved, they have a place to go, they have family, they have all these things to lean on, and they don't need as much help. But some men and women don't have any of those things. And so they can really benefit from a slower progression. They can benefit from a lot more assistance. And while some people may be resistant to that because, you know, you want to get out of jail and go home, you know, but at the same time, you know, to be see the long term and not be short-sighted and understand that in order to be successful in the long term, maybe taking advantage of a program like this is the way to go. And I think we had a conversation at dinner last night that I think a lot of that would go through advocacy and men and women who have been through these types of programs, speaking with the potential residents and participants in these programs to let them know how beneficial it was. Success always inspires people. And so that's one of the things that I think that she should lean on in the future, and I think she will. And she's a smart lady, and her heart's in the right place. So now we're going to move on to the transitional housing representatives that we have on our panel. And Lori Trout, like I mentioned before, is the director of GROW Transitional Housing, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that.
Good morning. I'm so excited and happy to be here today. As is said, my name is Lori Trout. I'm the executive director and founder of GROW, which stands for Grace Restores Overcoming Women. GROW was a vision that I had 25 years ago. It didn't come to fruition until I found myself on the opposite side of the law. I was sitting on the side of the desk. I thought I should have been on the side of the desk taking notes and talking to those people. Well, I found myself on the side that I am one of those people. And so our ministry is a faith-based ministry. We provide transitional housing for women when they come out of incarceration. They come directly from Topeka, TFC, or they come from the Adult Residential Center in Gardner. And I have had ladies come from Chanute, Kansas, and what we do, when they come into our program, these ladies find themselves in beautiful homes. We have 3 houses in Johnson County, one in Olathe, one in Lenexa, and one in Overland Park. We are now preparing to open a house or looking for housing in Missouri. These ladies come broken, and we are there. I'm their mother. I'm mama. And they know mama would get you if you mess up or do something you shouldn't be doing. But one thing I do say, now look, I'm not your mama. I'm not coming in there and cleaning your room. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. But I'm mama to love you and help encourage these ladies. These ladies come broken. They come from prison thinking that I'm nobody. I can't overcome my past. Nobody's going to give me a chance. Well, I always say, well, you know what? The devil is a lie. Because we are here to help you. Look, you can look back at your past, but use that as a stepping stone to move to your future. We provide the housing. Each lady has their own bedroom. We provide trainings for them. We help them better themselves. We help them to find the quality, the beauty in themselves. These ladies come broken. These ladies, I had a lady come and they said, she has the Eeyore symptoms or whatever. And I said, what is that? And they said, don't you know Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore? And that it was always, Well, she was. When she came to the house, she could barely make it up the steps. I was like, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? Let me tell you, this lady now, she just moved into her own apartment. She come to church all beautiful. These ladies, we had ladies that were told, you can't wear a dress. You can't wear heels because heels are only for tall girls. You can't wear makeup. I said, oh, really? Watch this. Well, these girls, I'm telling you, I'll be like, oh my God, I better step up my game because these girls getting it now. They come and I am so blessed by these girls. I'm there to help them, but they are helping me. I have a young lady that said, Miss Lori, you don't even know anything about drugs. I'm like, you're right, but that's why you're here. I said, you can lay out some meth right down. I don't know what it is. So we help them in their life skills. We help empower them to find out who they are. These ladies take their rooms and they just make them to their own being, their own liking. We have rules. We're not an Oxford house. Our program is really like motivational. These ladies are all self-sustainable. So we don't have, if someone has a lot of medical issues, we probably would not take them because we don't have staff. But, you know, that's one of the problems. Housing for women and resources for women is very small compared to men. And so I just love being able to be a part of these ladies' lives. We help them get their driver's license. We help them get their jobs. We have had ladies get cars. We have cars donated to our ministry. We help these ladies. We have clothing closets. We have, when these ladies move out of our, or leave our program, it's 6 months up to 2 years. We had a lady there for 3 years. I don't care. If it takes that long, let it be. We have had some ladies that leave and have had to come back because they just fell on some hard times. That's okay. So one of our houses, we're going to change it to a short-term program where if you need some extra help to get back on track, it's okay. I don't worry about the money. I got somebody up there, God, that helps us. So, you know, we're a small ministry, but guess what? Our needs are met and taken care of. These girls don't have to worry about a thing. When they leave our program, we help them get an apartment or whatever. They have a full apartment from top to bottom with furniture. They don't have to worry about trying to get furniture. We help them get jobs outside. So we are there to support them. I'm there to support them. They know I love them. And this is my heart. And like I said, it took 25 years to get here. But I thank God for what I had to go through to get where I am. Because now I can say to these ladies, you know what? I know what it feels like not to be able to get an apartment. I know what it feels like not to be able to get a job when I see a help wanted sign right there. And I'm like, you're not going to hire me? Well, you know what? Keep that open spot because I can do the job, or these ladies can do the job. These ladies, they are some awesome workers. Their self-esteem has went from 0 up. And these ladies I love them. I'm so proud of seeing them come in the program, grow, mature, and find out who they are. Find out the beautiful woman that God has created them to be.
Yes. 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 Y'all didn't know you was going to come to church this morning, did you? Yes. I'm feeling that. I love that. That's the type of excitement that you need, though, when you're dealing with these types of issues and when you're working with people that have challenges and have backgrounds that maybe weren't the best and have never really had a chance to succeed in this world. You have to be prepared for the challenges that brings with it, meaning that a lot of these people don't have self-worth. They don't have self-esteem. Right. They are going to make mistakes. They are going to let you down sometimes. They are going to make decisions that you don't understand. And you have to be willing to accept that when you're doing this type of work. And you can't let it break you down. You can't let it break your spirit. You can't let it change what it is that your principles of whatever the work you're doing is founded on. You have to stick to it through the hard times. And then when you get a chance to see some of these success stories, why do you think Lori's so fired up? Because she's had a chance to see some of these success stories. And then that re-energizes you, and it reminds you of why you're doing these hard things. Because even if it was just one girl, that's a whole life.
Yes.
That's a whole life with children and grandchildren and a whole lineage that's going to be passed on. Who knows till Jesus comes back, I guess. But the thing is, you have to have that type of passion and that type of attitude when it is that you're working in these fields. It's just hard work. And Matt, you're going to follow Lori. So this is Matt. He's the director of Firm Foundations Ministries. We're going to let him tell you a little bit about himself.
I really got nothing to say except, can I get your autograph? No, my name is Matt Thomas. I'm an ex-convict, whatever you want to call it. I did my prison time in Arizona, and honestly, I went through the system in Arizona, and there was no programming. Like you did 85% of your time, and then you got out of prison. And so what I noticed, right, is I came out of prison the same guy that went in mentally. I just had a great work ethic. I just came out of prison, and it was like, oh, I need to do something different, and I had Jesus, but I didn't have anything teaching me to do anything different. And so I get out of prison, I relapse, I get with the wrong relationship, you know what I mean? And then it was by the grace of God that my life changed. But what I notice is when you come out here, Kansas is pretty amazing when it comes to that because they have open doors for programs. And so one day I was having a cup of coffee with a guy down in Wichita, and he didn't have a home, he didn't have anything, and man, I just had the feeling, God say, hey, man, this dude needs a place to live. And it was like, man, I got to help this dude get a place. And that's really what started. And so now we have 3 houses in Wichita. We have 1 in Topeka, and we have a house and a building that we're fixing up in KCK. And so instead of the approach of I'm just going to house these guys, what we wanted to do was wrap around them with a community that'll love them, give them some practical skills to help them be successful. So it's not just housing, it's housing in a family. It's housing, because what we've learned, and honestly this was true in my life, the people that helped me the most were the people that understood where I was coming from. And those were the ones that I could understand because that schism wasn't there of oh my gosh, this person's judging me and I'm judging them because they haven't been where I've been. And so once you get rid of that, right, that's the community piece that you find. And so the men in the house help each other. They help them get a job. They help them get to their job. They help them with clothes. The guys will take them to Walmart, get them a phone and do that. And so that was the culture that we wanted to start was, and then it became more prevalent, right? You got to start this inside the prison. And so if you catch these men and women when they get out and you haven't prepared them ahead of time, man, you're already fighting the uphill battle. And this is why the in-prison programs like Reaching Out From Within, Brothers in Blue, and some of these other programs that are inside are so relevant because like when I came out of prison, right, if I would have had that inside, I might have been able to skip a year of not so great times in my life, right? And so this is why this is so important. And I'm really, like I said, I just want Dr. Lori's autograph, and I'm thankful to be here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate all you guys giving us that information. Now I'm going to pose a question mainly for Lori and Matt, but if you guys have some input on how this process works, just feel free to speak up. So how do you get referrals from the Department of Corrections, and like how do you advertise your program? Like how do you go about making the people that are in need aware of that, or any of these people, if they wanted to get involved or they wanted to help, or they had some people that they think might benefit, how do you do that?
The ladies that come to our program are directly from, like I said, TCF or from an institution. They will contact me, and we discuss the individual. We do I have a completed application, and then I'll do an online interview. Since COVID, before COVID, I would actually go to TCF or out to the residential center and visit with the young lady. I don't really, we don't take people directly off the streets. I tried that, and 98%, it failed. Because these ladies have already gone back out on the street and got back with their old friends and everything. So once they come from, and I review the application and discuss it with the board, these ladies come to the program. And one thing that I love about being connected with the institution is that if you don't want to listen to me, you will listen to your PO. You will listen to your parole officer or probation officer. So I stress that. And so that's the beauty of having that connection and relationship with their POs. I call them and say, hey, I'm having a problem with Susie. Can you talk with her or something? So once again, they contact me. And I don't advertise because, once again, you can get anybody off the street that say, oh, yes, I want to surrender my life to Christ, and yes, your program can help me. And they know the song and the dance. Don't fool yourself that they don't know how to play the game, because they do. And so they'll tell you what you want to hear. And I often say, God, why do you give us a soft heart for individuals like this, and then we're going to get broken? But, you know, it's better to work with the facilities, and that's how we get our referrals.
So we take men from jails, we take men from rehabilitation centers, we take men from prison. And so what we've done over the years is I've built a good relationship with a lot of the people that work like in the Kansas Department of Corrections unit teams and mentor coordinators and people like that. And really I spend a lot of time in the facility with the men, and I sit with them and I counsel them and I walk with them. And so, you know, believe it or not, like that spreads like wildfire. And so we don't, just like Dr. Lori, we don't really advertise per se. The guys tell each other who we are, what we do, and so they'll know ahead of time if this is a place to go or if this is a place to not go because they can't get it off, right? And then sometimes they got to learn the hard way, just like we got to learn the hard way, that you know, this individual needs to do a little more research, and then maybe we can help them. So that's what we do.
I wanted to add on to that. Also, we get referrals. So like Pastor Matt, or they referred someone that had come to their church. And if it's from a Christian institution, someone that I know, or if it's from another nonprofit that has individuals that they can't serve, I do work with other organizations, nonprofits in Olathe, specifically with Johnson County. If they have someone that come to them that they feel would better fit my program, I will talk with those individuals. Or if I have someone that comes to our program that really needs a substance abuse program, I refer them to other agencies, because it's not all about me. We're all in this together, and so we try to help each other.
That's great. That's a great point. That it's not all. You have to know what you can do and what you can't do, and you have to be realistic about that. I got one question. I kind of just, if you guys can just give me like maybe one or two of the major things. I'm going to ask all four of you. And so, like, what's the biggest challenge with the work that you do? Like, one or two of the biggest challenges that you have when you're doing your job, Amy?
Let's see, one or two of the biggest, I mean, the first challenge really is the person's ability to feel like they are worthy of anything outside of prison. Working through those barriers is our number one challenge, and that looks different for everybody. Sometimes that looks like continued drug use or misuse of their prescription medications, or the feeling like they don't deserve to be well, either physically or mentally. And so working through that has been a challenge. And then the other big challenge is really just in the communities, having the communities understand that these are your community members, these are your neighbors, these are your your coworkers. These are your friends of your children or your partner or whoever. And so having them understand that they're coming and we can either shun them or we can help them, but either way, they're going to be here.
Michelle?
I think one or two of the biggest challenges that we have would be for the referrals that we're getting into the program, getting them early and not waiting until they're in violation status or they're back in front of the parole board or the courts, the judges looking at revocation. We need to get them the services that they need soon and not wait for there to be an arrest or a law violation. The other thing that I would say is just with the new concept that we're trying to get to the Transition Center of Kansas City, it's really helping everyone, whether it's the residents or the staff or even our community, realize that we are, kind of like you mentioned, we are all working together, that there might be a chain of command, but that doesn't mean that I can't have a conversation with any resident or with any person that's in that program. We are all role models. And we should be looking for the positive with the residents. We're not trying to catch them doing something that they're not supposed to be doing.
Lori?
I think the biggest challenge for me, I'm only one person, and I am involved with the ladies. I am not a taskmaster or someone that's got to have my hands in everything, but I am there to show them love and to be there to encourage them. So it's not enough hours in the day really for me to visit each house, so I don't actually visit the houses every day, but I will send a text here, there, somewhere to them, checking on them, but it's just not enough hours. And the funding, if we had monies to maybe have staff, that would be good. But since we don't, we work with what we have. The other challenge would be not enough housing. You know, like I said, we're getting ready to purchase a house or looking for a house on the Missouri side. So that means now I'm on the Missouri side, and I do have someone on the Kansas side that's looking after things, but it's just being in one place in multiple times, and so not enough hours in the day.
Matt?
So I would say there's two things, and they kind of intermingle with each other. One is you know, being somebody that operates faith-based housing is getting the men and women to understand that just because it's faith-based doesn't mean that it's bad, or doesn't, you know what I mean? Like you can still learn things from different people and it be positive and pro-social in your life. Yes. And so a lot of people shy away, but the truth is that you know, I learn things from a lot of different people. I don't just read Christian authors. I don't just read, you know, like I learn a lot from, and so that would be number one, because I think a lot of people cut themselves out of that because it's a shy away, when really it's like, hey, these are the same principles that could help you be successful in different arenas. But the number two side is really kind of, I think Amy said, is really getting the community to understand that there are felons packed throughout all of our neighborhoods, right? Like me included. Like I live in a pretty decent neighborhood, and I run housing, so people bring me money, and so all my neighbors are probably looking like covered in tattoos, you know what I mean? And it's like, but the truth is that if we could understand that some of us that are felons, like we work harder and stronger and we're more dedicated because we understand that there are strikes against us. And so I think if you can get the community to wrap around that we're not actively trying to sabotage what you're doing, like you can build a community even better than it is.
That's great. We were supposed to have another panelist up here, one of the guys from another transitional house. I'm also the vice president of ARC, which is the Alliance for Returning Citizens. And we're basically in partnership with Reaching Out from Within. I think about 2 summers ago, myself and Leslie Leahy and a couple of other people formed a committee about how Reaching Out from Within could get into transitional housing. It was one of the elements that Reaching Out from Within didn't have, that we weren't able to accommodate. And so we did that. And it was a journey. And through that journey, the Alliance for Returning Citizens got formed, and we were able to purchase a house. It's in Kansas City, Kansas. And Leslie and her husband were so awesome in helping us.
Amen.
Well, really, they just took over the project and renovated it and furnished it and decorated it. And one of the principles behind it, was it was really on her heart that these men have a beautiful place to live. And that's something that comes directly from Axel's visit with us in 2019. And one of the things that they stressed was they don't want prison to look like prison. You don't want people to wake up every day and look at their environments and their surroundings and the places where they're laying their head and to think, it sucks. This is my life. You want them to wake up and be excited about it. You want them to wake up and feel good about it. Because when you feel good about where you're at and where you're living, then you feel good about yourself, in essence. And you start to learn that I'm worth more than maybe I've experienced in the past. And recently we started having weekly meetings at our house on Fridays, and that's one of the things the guys communicated to me. They said that, man, this house is so nice. It's the nicest house that they've lived in. And I told them, what's the nicest house that I've walked in and not lived in, but it's a beautiful house. And they want to take care of it. They cook for each other. They clean up after themselves. They help each other they take care of the yard. They do all these different things, and they feel a sense of pride. And also I told them, as being it's a full house now. It's a 5-bedroom house, and every bedroom's filled, and we got guys waiting to come in. And what I told them, as the first, class, the first full group of guys, they have an opportunity to establish a culture in this house. They have an opportunity to establish some traditions and some senses of respect and take accept accountability for this opportunity that they have and really pay it forward. And that's something that we talked about, too, is that you do need that, because it has to be the guys in the girls' program. It has to be theirs. They have to accept that, because we can't watch them. We can't talk them. You can't make them believe things. But your peers, just like from the time you're a kid to the time you're a professional, they have a big influence on you. And so we want these guys to have an influence on each other. And so as one guy moves out and a new guy moves in, we want him to be grabbed up into this culture and to learn some of the things that these guys have learned. And really, that's what we want. And so as we have more houses, in the future, God willing, that's some of the things that we can, translate as we move forward. And I think any of the work you're doing, you got to remember that it has to be the people that are benefiting. It has to be theirs. They have to take ownership of it. And you have to figure out how you do that in the various programs and work that you're doing. Because you can want to help them all you want. You can want them to know these things all you want. They have to do it. And they do the best job of it once they really believe that and they start to do that work. And I don't know how much time we have. Do I got a clock around here? I don't know how much time we have left. 30 minutes. Okay, we got 20 minutes left, so we're gonna take some questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, my man Richard, I told him I'd keep an eye on him in the back of the room. He's got the online questions. So what do you got for us?
All right, we had an excellent question dropped in the chat by someone joining us virtually named Angie. Angie has a question for Matt and Lori. We understand you work primarily in the Christian field. She wants to know, would you be willing to work with non-believers or atheists?
Yes, God loves us all. And so it's our belief, yes, you come in, and what draws you or maybe will help change that individual's life around is the love that we can show them about Christ. You come in and do follow the rules and regulations and everything, and we'll believe that your life will be turned around, that you won't be an atheist forever, that you will surrender your heart to God. But, if you come in and you continue to go the way you go, one of our one of our regulations is I do require the ladies to attend a church service, whether at my church or another church. And so I would believe that at some point your heart will be turned. But as long as you're doing and following the rules and regulations and not causing havoc, we're willing to accept you and work with you. I was out there once, so look what God done to me, and he's still working on me, so we would work with you.
Hey, Max, stand up. So, guys, this is Max. This is my regional director for the program. You can go ahead and have a seat. So Max got out of prison in 2019. Max was, oh my gosh, not a Christian. And to be brutally honest, he was one of the most integrous people I've ever met in my life. I knew him while he was in prison. I taught the substance abuse class for Brothers in Blue and some other things. And Max never once varied from being truthful or honest where he was at. And so that is exactly what we wanted to start the house when we started our KC house. And honestly, we wouldn't be nearly as successful as we are today in the Kansas City area if it wasn't for Max. And so I'm going to tell you the tradition of how that works out. We have another guy in the house who's a house leader who also is not a Christian, but is solid, is living right, is living out the principles of what we want to see in successful reentry. Of course, as a pastor, I would love to see all the people that I talk to become Christians, but at the very minimum, if I can just walk with a dude and him not go back to prison or not jump back into addiction or not, you know what I mean? Then that's success in itself. So absolutely.
Yes. Beautiful. I think we had a question right here. Could you get her a microphone? Somebody back there got a microphone for her? Thank you, Laura.
Great. I have a question for Lori, and specifically about the unique barriers for women reentering into community, because I'm just shocked and excited because a lot of the programs are male-focused.
The ladies faced as many barriers as the men, of course, number one, maybe being female, but because the women, when they go into incarceration, I believe a lot of them have at heart their families, their children. They're putting everybody else before themselves, So when they come out, they have no identity. The barriers they face, once again, is employment, because maybe they did not continue their education to get a level of education as a male, I don't know. Once again, because they put everybody else before them. They have the problem of identification. They didn't think, or no one helped them to pursue the needed documentation to what they needed for once they got back on the outside. It's been stated here earlier that on the inside it's easy to go out and get a job, because they take the ladies out to different jobs in the community and take them back in. But once they come out, I don't know what the stigma is that many employers make it so difficult for the women, because maybe they don't have the ID. Maybe they don't have they got a divorce, and while they was in prison, their documents was lost, so that now they got to go back and get the marriage decree showing they've been divorced. They don't have their Social Security, because they've been shipped around from location to location, or they've been arrested multiple times, and so their documentation has been lost, so they got to go back and find all these things. And so that becomes overwhelming. And then with the stigma, they're looked down or frowned upon, makes it even worse for these ladies. I took a lady to DMV in Olathe 5 times for her driver's license, even for an ID. She left that place crying multiple times because the worker said, "We won't take that ID." And I said to her, "Really?" I said, "Who's gonna come up in here with a prison ID and say, 'This is me,' besides the person?" Come on. So, they make things difficult. And so these ladies started to feel it was easier for me to be inside than to come out here and be frowned upon and looked down upon, because I made the same mistake that my counterpart, the male, made. But, I'm a female, so I have to pay the harder price. So those are things, their ID and identity, the job barrier, the housing, it's ridiculous. They will, I had a landlord tell me, "Well, we can put 7 guys in a 3-bedroom house. They don't care. They can sleep on the floor. They're fine with it. But you get a woman, I'm not going to rent to women because she got to have the blinds fixed. She got to have the curtains. She got to have the right color bedspread." I'm like, really, dude? So, they face those kind of things. And that's very discouraging.
Thank you. Great question. Any more questions?
I'll try to project for the room. Here you go. Okay. Quick question for you. I think Mr. Howe with the Johnson County District Attorney's Office mentioned COVID was a blessing in one respect. And when he said that, it reminded me during COVID, I did a lot of pro bono eviction defense. I had no experience doing it. And I had a lot of phone calls, dozens and then scores of phone calls for 2 years. So I backed into a practice area I never intended to practice and never make any money off of. It's a kind of a pro bono thing. And the topic here is transitional housing. I think I've heard every speaker refer to transitional housing, and to close that circle of transitional housing to fully implemented housing. Have you considered, or are you partnering with, for the 4 panelists respectively, are you partnering with groups or pro bono type of attorneys to face or to challenge what I've seen from people who have left prison, which is they have judgments against them, they have multiple evictions. I've never seen a single person that has called me that has been released that did not have multiple evictions, multiple debt judgments against them, and it prevented them from getting typical housing anywhere. And so we talked about, the panelists, you all spoke about impediments and the challenges you face in the transitional phase. And I guess this is not directed to anyone, but perhaps to all of you. Have you considered partnering with groups, including specialists who help people get out of that kind of trouble retroactively? So if you have an eviction or you have a debt, and let's say you've paid that debt, but you just don't have a satisfaction of judgment filed with the court. That takes 5 minutes to file that. So I'm wondering if you have considered that as part of your transitional program.
So I'll say this, I appreciate that and I love that. The hard part is finding an attorney or a group that will work with some of these men or women on a cost that they can afford. And so, that's a very real thing. It's not just judgments, but it's old cases, or it's the mom that won't let the kids see. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are attorney related that unfortunately finding somebody to do it at a cost that's affordable is almost non-existent.
And I'm going to piggyback on you. We don't even go to the eviction part. I think a lot of places, attorneys, or whoever look at you're a felon. You have this. We don't even get to the other part. And this is why we're having this, because that's very good information. If there is someone that would work with us to help these ladies and gentlemen, that would be great. We have ladies that are garnished. Right now, I have a couple of ladies being garnished from stuff way back when. And one case, well, actually, all of their paycheck. And so, you know what? I said, well, you don't have the money to pay your program fee. Don't worry about it. But the one lady, it was in Johnson County. She had one garnishment on her son that was 18 years old. He's now 20-something. And so they had 2 garnishments against her. And so when he turned 20-something, they took the money from that on her son and applied it to the other one. She has no money. So, I have had some with evictions, but we don't even get to that part. It's just the fact that you're a felon. And so, no, we're not going to rent to you. And so I would love to get information. If somebody would work with these individuals, work with our program to help them, that would be great. We have been lucky and blessed to find some landlords that will, well, I have one lady for sure, that she originally said, I had a lady go, she said, we're going to have to charge her about 5 times the rent. I said, you know what? She got the cash. She got it. And she was like, oh, really? I said, yeah, she got it. And so she ended up, she says, because she pulled her record, and if somebody else had been using her social security number and ID when she was in, I said, it wasn't her. She was in prison. How could she do all those things? So now she calls me, and I'll call her. I got a lady that needs a place, and I back her up. And so once again, you're just finding that rental or that landlord that will work with us, or if there's an attorney that will work with us, that will be great.
And honestly, I still can't rent an apartment. I mean, brutal honesty, right? Like I've got 5 felonies on my record, and as soon as they pull that up, I can't.
Yeah, that's
I'm
one
with
of the,
him. Me either. I can't either.
I think that's one of the challenges, and that's one of the great things about a symposium like this. It's because it brings together these different elements, and that's something that at least in our house we haven't dealt with or even tried to address yet. We're so new; we've only been operating less than a year, and so we're in the very infancy stages of getting into housing and understanding all the issues that come up. They've been in it a lot longer, which is why they've been talking a lot more about the housing issue. But the other thing is that's something that a lot of guys I know are facing. I mean, guys that have jobs, that have thousands of dollars in their bank account, that have been sober for years, they're leaders in their church, leaders in their family, leaders in their community, and they can't get an apartment. It's like, it's so crazy, like, to think, like, some of the best people I know. One of my friends in this room right now, he's had a problem getting an apartment, and he's one of the, I mean, most responsible people I know. I always tell him he's my most responsible friend. Like, this dude is on top of things, and he can't get an apartment. So I'm glad you brought that up, and hopefully we get a chance to network soon, and people who have ideas about that can pass along the information.
We have a question in the chat. By the way, I was told to tell you, Danny, we've got about 8 minutes left for questions here. We have a question from someone also named Matt, ironically. Matt says,
Where's your phone at, man?
affordable housing typically means high crime and high drug areas of town. Once these men and women leave prison and then enter transitional housing, how do they find safe and affordable housing that is away from crime and drugs?
Wow. To be real, you really don't. You have to find a neighborhood that's a balance in between of lower middle class and poverty, because there's an option for housing possibly there. And it's just the honest truth of how it is, right? And so it's hard when you say, hey, I want to help you be successful. Man, you've completed 9 months in my house. You're killing it. I'm super proud of you. Let me help you find a place. And then you stop, right? Or you get in contact with a landlord that you possibly know through somebody else, maybe through a contact with the Department of Corrections. But the truth is if they're really looking for a nice place to live in a great neighborhood, those are very few and far between, and you don't find them very often. And the problem is it's because people are afraid to rent or honestly lease, right? So even if you've built your credit and you've done this and you run a credit report and you want to go buy a house, you know what happens? All the rest of your stuff comes back out, and it stops you from being able to leave all of that and to better your life. And that, I mean, that's just the truth.
You know, we were having this conversation at dinner, and I was talking to Leslie about it. And one of the things I said is, like, I can't remember when they did it, but some years back, Kansas changed their policy to where parolees could live with other parolees. Before that, they couldn't. You couldn't even be around them. But now you can. And some of the things that we've seen, like just from my friends and people that I know, they're partnering up and becoming roommates and putting together enough money and resources so that they can find a house that they can live in, because an apartment won't rent to them. And the thing I think about too sometimes is, like, all of us can get a car. Like, when we get out, if you got money and your credit's up, man, the car dealers will give you any car you want on that lot. And I think, well, our credit and they're willing to give us a car to drive all around the city, but nobody's willing to give us an apartment to live in the city, and it doesn't really make much sense to me. I think that, I don't know why there's such a difference there, but so if anybody was able to get into, like, real estate and try to attack this problem in that way, it'd be a great thing to work with some of these developers or some of these real estate people that are willing to take a chance on responsible people that are able to do this. But I do think one of our ideas was talking to the men in our house and giving them that option. If you find somebody in the house that you really get along with and that you're able to live with in a good way, it might be a good option for you guys to get together and try to find a place together where you have more resources and a better opportunity in that way. You got something saying?
Yeah,
we had a question.
just real quick, brutal honesty. I've committed more crimes in a car than I have in the place I've lived. I mean, that's honesty, right? Like, and most people could say that.
Right here. Oh, we had a question back there too. What, here and then here.
Okay. One of our hardest populations to find housing for is the registered sex offenders. And I know due to statutes and due to policies such as the low-income housing where they can't live, it's hard to find housing for them. So what are you all doing to kind of help those guys?
Once again, we have to do a little legwork for these guys. And the individual I work with, she will accept SOs and one of the things she'll ask me, we saw something on the credit report. Is that cleared up? I'm like, you don't have to worry about that. That was done 10 years ago. That was done 15 years ago. They're okay. And I don't know why so many people, I mean, grant you there, some need to be locked up and the key thrown away. But everybody's not in that situation. And I'm gonna tell you, okay, so I'm on the offender registration. I am. You look me up. I made a wrong choice. I made a bad choice 12 years ago. So yes, I'm on the sex offender registry. I often say, you know what, I'm gonna do a lineup. And I'm gonna have a bunch of ladies come up. A lot of tats, some looking like they just came out the drug house. And then I'm gonna be standing up there and I'm gonna say, so who do you think up here is a registered sex offender?
Come on, sister.
I bet you they wouldn't pick me. When I was in jail, they were like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, well, I'd done something I shouldn't have done. It was my choice, and I messed up. But you know what? I take that bad choice and I use it for the glory of God to say, you know, it was not the right thing to do. I messed up, I made a mistake, but I'm using that to help others that are in my situation. Some people are out there, they just ain't got caught yet. There's a lot of them still doing a lot of stuff that we done as felons. They just hadn't got caught yet. But you know what? I thank God I have been caught, and when I get up to the heavenly sky, it's already paid for. I ain't got to worry about it. They got to get up there and be like, why did you do this? Why did you do it? Well, you should have took accountability for what you done back down here. So, you know, we get a lot of raps, bad rap. But, you know, we just have to do some leg work. And this job, this ministry doesn't come easy. That one lady.
Hi, I'm from North Carolina, and I wanted to talk about the housing issue. I, too, work with a group of young men and women that are classified both as gangs and with felonies. And finding housing is challenging, but I've been intentional about that, and I just wanted to share in hopes that maybe it's something you guys can do here, taking them through an onboarding that includes getting their credit looked at and fixed on my own, or bringing in experts that's willing to donate their time for it. But I've created a database of homeowners that are willing to rent to these guys, and I host a luncheon quarterly to present to them some of the success stories of people who were able to transition. They don't live in the hood. So I have a young man that lives 3 blocks away from me, and I don't live in the hood, and I served 5 years up north. Right? And so, you know, I'm going to say God changes our story, right? But there are people out there, and if we are intentional with our programming and our planning, we can find homeowners that are willing to rent. And because we've all been there, we become evidence, Exhibit A, that better is possible. And so sometimes we don't have to present the resident we want to place. We have to present ourselves first. And if we present ourselves, they may be willing to give us a chance because of the track work that we've created on our own.
Beautiful.
Man, that's a great speech.
Beautiful.
All right, I think we got time for one more quick one, Mark. One more quick one, and then we're going to have to wrap this up. Mark Showalter right here in the front. I'll talk fast.
Okay. So I'm a convicted felon and never had to find a place to live in my life. Still haven't to this day, and I'm thankful for that. I wanted to talk because my best friend is a real estate agent. He's also a convicted felon. He spent about 10 years in Lansing. And so he also has rental properties. And I'm going to tell you, being a convicted felon, I'm a lot less likely to rent to a convicted felon. And here's why. It's being a convicted felon, when I'm in that situation, which I'm not, but I have some interaction with it, I'm hesitant, and I'm like, okay, where's the guarantee that you're not going to destroy my property? Because right after I was released, I helped him do some work on some of his houses, and then just recently, I've helped him do some work on his houses, and that work was cleanup work, and at least one of those houses was pretty much destroyed. So we're in the insurance era, and so what if maybe one of the solutions to our problem is like a bonding or some kind of, I use this term insurance loosely, but how do we incentivize these people that have these properties to rent to people? because they're scared. They don't want their property destroyed. They need that income. They need to pay the mortgage on that property too. How do we overcome that barrier? You know, we're always going to have the stigma barrier, always. Right. But how do we eliminate some of those barriers that we can eliminate? So
I like that idea, but the ladies we work with, when they leave our program, I make sure I still stay in contact with them. The homes we have, I would move into them. I'm not gonna put the ladies into a dump while they're in the program. These are beautiful homes, so when they leave my program, I'm like, when you go over there, you make sure you take care of that house. Don't let me come to your house and find it all funky and filthy. No. You make sure you take care of where you're going because you're making it difficult for somebody else. So I stay in contact with those ladies. That may not be the same for everybody, but still, everybody is not in that boat. And I get you, there are some that will do what you're saying, but everybody's not like that. So it's a gamble we have to take all around.
She's right.
Right. Come on now.
That's true. Well, I'd just like to thank you guys for giving us this time. It was a great panel.
One quick question.
Okay.
Hi, this question is coming to us from Anson Correctional Institute in North Carolina. It's specifically for Matt. Matt, for someone who is starting a reentry ministry program, what advice would you give?
Get some thick skin. Honestly, it's expecting the worst and hope for the best, because just like all of us, and it doesn't matter if you've been in prison, even if you've never been in trouble, we all have things that if we don't take care of them and work through them, will destroy us. And so what I would say is, number one, if you really feel led to do this, then do it and don't give up. Because everything in the world is going to try to get you to give up, and everything is going to fight against you to give up, and you just can't give up. Because before you know it, you'll look back and you'll realize that it's actually been successful the whole time. It just hasn't been easy. So that's what I would say is create a plan, work the plan. When the plan burns down, work the plan. When the plan blows up in your house, work the plan. And if you keep working the plan, eventually the plan's going to succeed.
Yes, very good.
Good answer. Good answer, Matt. So now I'd like to thank you guys for giving us the time to come up here and talk about transitional housing. And we talked about a lot of great stuff. And hey, that's some great work you're doing in North Carolina. You know, thank you for your input. That's a beautiful way to attack something with some really foresight and strategy and really trying to solve these problems in a great way. That's great input on that. And I'd like to just also, before we get off this stage, just to remind you guys that we're talking about a lot of serious things and sometimes somber things and sometimes, like, you know, really emotional things. But man, let's be happy about what we're doing here. Like, this is a great event, and we have a lot of successful people in here that have benefited from programs like that and work that all you people are doing. And so I'm excited, man. I'm happy about being here and happy about the opportunities that I've gotten. So let's not forget to have some fun and be joyful in this situation too, because man, there's so many people doing great things and so many people that are benefit from this work. So it can be sad, it can be serious, but it's also amazing and a joyful and beautiful thing. And you guys are all beautiful people, and I'm happy to see all you guys here, and hope to see you guys next year in an even bigger event. So we just thank you guys for your time again. Enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Thank you, Danny, and Amy, Michelle, Lori, and Matt, all of you. What a great discussion. There's a lot of work out there for us to do, a lot of work, a lot of improvements that can be made. I want to talk for just a minute. I kept looking at the picture behind them, and it brought me back to the idea that what we're doing today, what we're trying to do, is to I believe this is the Kit Bond Bridge over the Missouri River, if I know my Missouri history. And what we're trying to do is to build bridges, right? To build bridges between the incarcerated men and women inside to the society that they'll live in when they get out. 95, 97% of the people in prison will get out one day. They're going to be your neighbor, my neighbor. So we are trying to bridge that gap, right? And it's a huge gap. There are many challenges that we've just talked about. Think about that. Think about ways that we can bridge that gap as we move through the day and continue this great discussion. We're going to take another break, 10 minutes. We've got one more panel we're going to squeeze in before lunch. You won't want to miss this one. This is returning citizens, some of our alumni coming back up. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes.